Hey guys, welcome to JasonWhiskyWise. Myself, Jason, bringing you whiskey review number 63, where today we're going to review the Paul John Edited. Now this is the second Paul John we're reviewing, as the last video was the Paul John Brilliance. Now if you haven't seen the Paul John Brilliance, it's an unpeated expression from Paul John, and the Edited is slightly peated. Now we'll speak a little bit further, but if you haven't already followed me on social medias like my Twitter, Facebook and Instagram, be sure to go and do so over there, as when we get to 300 subscribers I will be doing a giveaway. Now as I poured myself a dram just to let it breathe for a little period of time, the Paul John whiskey is from Goa, India. It's one of the whiskeys I'll be covering, and I'm going to be doing the whole range of them, so you'll see all of them in the upcoming videos. Now also, if you haven't followed the region manager from Paul John, his name is Shilton. I'll leave a link to him over here, and you guys can see that's how he looks. He's a really nice chap, and be sure to go and pay him a visit and say I sent you guys over, as you go and meet him at any of the whiskey shows, whiskey festivals, even just outside. He is a fantastic guy and always likes to share a great dram. So we'll begin our review into the Paul John Edited. Now it is it's slightly peated, an expression of Paul John, not heavily peated like your Islay peats, but just slightly, just a little bit. Now in terms of my review style structure, ABV wise, this is bottled at 46% ABV. The age on it is a non-age stated whiskey, and that's because of the hot climates in India. The cask selection for this one is a ex-bourbon and I believe first fill bourbon. It's got a combination of the two, but it's primarily 30% peated whiskey and a 70% unpeated whiskey, and this is vatted together. So that's how you get the combination of the Edited. Now in terms of the distillery, it is the Paul John Distillery, which you can see over here. It's owned by John Distillers, and it's located in the region of Goa, India. Now I will be paying them a visit over there very soon, and I'll take you along with me to do a visit to the distillery. Now in terms of the price point of view, the Edited is priced at £35 fixed, and this is online and in the shops in London, so it should be around about that in dollars and euros as well. Now in terms of exclusivity, it is not exclusive, as it is available globally, part of their core range. And in terms of caramel colour, there is no colour added, so everything you see over here is natural colour. So let's begin my review by first assessing the actual colour of this whiskey. I'm going to hold it for you there to check at home. What do you think on that? I'm going to go with a light gold because it is a bit lighter than the Brilliance. So light gold is going to be the colour. Let's move into assessing the nose, so into the nose. So, to begin my initial impressions on the nose, the Edited does start out with that very nice, gentle peat. It reminds me a little bit of a salty, smoky bacon grind, giving that nice sort of slightly smoked, but a little bit of more of that salty character, that maritime character to it. Then I'm picking out a slight earthy character, and this more associates with leaves in autumn. That little bit of the aroma you get in the air when you're walking through a field, these leaves that are falling. And then right behind that, I'm getting a slight maltier note. And also a little bit of a sweeter note, and that I'm going to say is more towards burnt caramel. When you've just overcooked it, you get a little burnt, crispy note, at the same time associated with the same sweeter notes behind there, and a little bit of cocoa powder. Very interesting on the nose of this one. So next we'll move into the palate and see what we can discover on that. So into the palate. So, into the palate for this whiskey, it does start with a nice rich palate with a nice medium full texture. You get those distinctive malty character, which you feel like you're almost chewing into the whiskey, and then you get a little bit of that delicate peat finding its way through, introducing itself onto the palate. And this peat is more towards, I'd say, a Highlands peat, not really an Islay peat. So it is a little bit lighter. You get a little bit more of those spice characters, and now it's really starting to show on the edges of the palate, the black pepper, those wood spices, cinnamon, really giving that slight sweet but spicier note. And then I'm getting something that reminds me of a quite refreshing but cooling sweet mint tea, which is very interesting because it's something I've been trying a lot, is these different teas, and associating them with whiskies is something quite interesting. And Paul John is one of the ones that I've been trying to do a lot of tea combinations with. I'm also picking out a slight sort of chocolatey note, but this is dark chocolate, and it's not powerful 90% dark chocolate. This is 70%, quite sweet, but at the same time not overly bitter. And this is a little bit of a nutty character that finds its way through. more towards almonds, a little combination of dark chocolate wrapped over the top of almonds. And then a little sweeter notes come in. There's vanilla oak. And then a little bit of brown sugar, sort of just melting itself on the palate. Really nice stuff. So next we're going to move into the finish, and I'll give you my conclusion on the Paul John Edited. So, into the finish. So to begin with the finish of this whiskey, it does start out with a nice medium long finish as it keeps rolling all over the palate, quite mouth-watering. As I'm getting a very nice little bit of a saltier note as well on the middle of the palate. Reminds me of a salted sort of spiced orange, which is used where they spice it with cloves. And then you just drizzle a little bit of salt on it. You get a little bit of a citrus, a little bit of spice, and a little bit of salty character all combined together on the finish of this whiskey. It then develops into a slight oaky presence in the mid-palate as it works its way back, and then those spices reignite themselves with a bit more heat and a little bit of smoke from a half-smoked sweet cigarillo. Very nice whiskey all in all, and that smokiness, that very light smokiness, really just lingers all around the palate, and it's not really fading so easily. So very nice whiskey all in all. So time to give my rating, and on this one I'm actually going to give it, I'm going to go with a 87 out of 100. Now the reason behind that, if you saw my Brilliance video, the only thing I find about the Edited is it's got a very nice gentle smoke, but I feel the spice is a little bit more dominant in terms of that black pepper, that clove, and that cinnamon. They're all just a little bit more dominant than the actual peat itself. But all in all, it's a fantastic whiskey. If you're new or introducing people into those slightly smoky style of whiskeys, I think this would be an absolute superb style, as it's got just a gentle smoke. It's not overpowering. At the same time, you can also pick out those sort of soft, fruitier characters as well, and a little bit of that salty character, which I found throughout from the nose to the finish. So in terms of price point of view, at being £35, is it value for money? I'm going to have to say yes, because at £35, nowadays all introductory whiskies and many whiskies I buy are all £50 minimum, and this being £35 is superb at £35. So value for money, definitely. In terms of the flavour profile, you're getting a nice complex bunch of flavours, and it just keeps giving. And this has also been an award-winning whiskey, so I did a little bit of research before, and so it's been picking up quite a few awards all over the place. So 87 out of 100 will be my final rating on the Paul John Edited. In terms of does it need water, personally I wouldn't recommend it unless you want to reduce the spice just a little bit, but then it takes away the texture. And in terms of air, the longer you leave this one to breathe, the more it will keep evolving. So if you have enjoyed the review, by all means feel free to drop it a like. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, which I'll leave just over here, and be also sure to check out the Paul John Brilliance, which I'll leave over here, the bold, and I'll leave a surprise Paul John video for you there. On that note, this has been Jason WhiskyWise, and I'll catch you all for the next video.